Hello and welcome to The Arise interview, where we take time to reflect on the big stories from the news and on the fortunes and affairs of the world in an hour of conversation with commentators, analysts and thought leaders. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, as Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission declares the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Godwin Obaseki, the winner of the governorship election in Edo State on Saturday, the campaign team of the rival All Progressives Congress Party rejects the results, accusing the PDP and its candidate of manipulating the ballot. The APC says leaders of the party are trying to decide what to do next. We'll have a post-mortem of the elections from those who analyzed it very closely. And later, Donald Trump says he'll reveal his preferred replacement for the liberal Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the next few days, telling supporters at a rally in North Carolina his nominee would be a woman. But the Democrats are angry that the president is pressing ahead with the plan before November's election. Justice Ginsburg died on Friday. We'll look at her legacy and the intense political debate about the process of appointing her successor. Coming up. Now, as you probably know, Nigerian elections are almost inherently contentious. Virtually every ballot conducted since the country returned to democracy in 1999 has ended in strife, arguments and controversy, even when the poll appears to have been well run. And so it is with the just concluded governorship election in Edo State, where the campaign team of the candidate from the All Progressives Congress, or APC, the party that lost the poll, have cried foul. Never mind the fact that President Buhari, who's a member of the losing side, has commended the Independent National Electoral Commission, or INEC, as well as the parties, the candidates, and the security agencies for conducting the ballot responsibly. Still, the APC in Edo State has rejected the result, alleging strong-arm tactics, arbitrary arrests of its members, and fabricated figures. So, what happens next? Well, in a moment, we'll speak to a member of the respected think tank, the Center for Democracy and Development, the organization that comprehensively monitored the Edo State ballot. We also have analysis from our political editor. But first, here's how the Electoral Commission, INEC, announced the results.
Osiage Eze Iyamu of APC had 223,619 votes. Godwin Obaseki of the PDP had 307,955, 307,955. That Godwin Obaseki of PDP, having satisfied the requirement of the law in meeting the 25% in two-thirds of the local government area in the state, and having a margin of lead higher than the council votes, is hereby declared the winner and returned elected. Signed by my person, today, 20 September 2020. Thank you, gentlemen of the
The great people of Edo State have spoken, and they have spoken loud and clear. We thank God Almighty and give Him all the glory for this victory. Thank you, President Muhammadu Buhari, for defending our democracy and allowing the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, and the security services to perform their constitutional functions without interference. INEC and the security services have shown Nigerians and the world indeed that they are capable of conducting free and credible elections.
Well, for more on the conduct of the Edo State governorship election, I'm joined now in the studio by the chairman of the Election Analysis Center for the CDD, the Center for Democracy and Development, Professor Adele Jinadu. And a little later, we'll be joined from our Overflow studio by Arise political editor Sumna Shagari Sambo. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
It's My pleasure.
I know this is a busy period for you, so we appreciate your presence. Just tell us how your organization, the Center for Democracy and Development, monitored that Edo State election. You chaired the CDD's Election Analysis Center. Tell us what emerged from your analysis.
Well, you know, we briefed the press on what we found on the ground. We deployed over 250 monitors, researchers across the states. And they were there a few weeks before the elections to look at the pre-election, what happened, to monitor on election day, and then to stay on behind for a couple of days to see post-election developments. And I think that before the election day last Saturday, we had some troubling reports from the field in terms of the tension arising from the politics of the nomination process, the electioneering processes, and those reports were a bit worrisome, given the history of the degeneration of elections in the country. So, but on election day, reports coming out showed that by and large, you know, the process was going on quite smoothly. There were hiccups here and there, but I think when you look at it as a totality, I think we're quite happy that this was a significantly different from what we've experienced in the past.
And when you talk about hiccups, what were those hiccups? I mean, break it down for us.
They're just, you know, hiccups that are due to the structural underdevelopment of the country. You know, malfunctioning of smart card readers due to network problems, delays in transporting men and material from locations, one location to the other. So I think those are basically the problems we are talking when we're talking hiccups. So that in some places, the elections did not start on time. Maybe they were about 10, 15, 20 minutes late. In other places, they may be about an hour late, but eventually they went on.
Right, but you don't think the hiccups that you're talking about were enough to substantially affect the outcome of the results?
They did not significantly.
Right, okay.
They did not significantly affect the conduct of the elections.
Right, so you agree with the Independent National Electoral Commission that this was a comprehensive victory for Godwin Obaseki, who won, I understand, in 13 out of the 18 local government areas in the state.
Yes, I think it was.
So the APC, the rival party, well, the biggest of the rival parties in Edo State, rejects the result, claiming that it was manipulated in favor of the INEC declared winner, Godwin Obaseki. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I don't know what evidence they have, so I cannot contest what they're saying. But in terms of what we saw from and the reports we got from our researchers and monitors, they felt that it was relatively credible, the conduct. And I think INEC also has come out. But of course, the important thing is, of course, I mean, no elections can be 100% perfect. And losers have the right to contest the conduct of elections. And there's a procedure, a process for making that known. And I expect that apart from saying this, they will, of course, go to court and produce the evidence for their claim.
But as you said, you who have been trusted by Nigerians over many, many elections and appear to have the capacity to properly monitor elections, you did not detect anything untoward in the conduct of the elections that would taint the results.
Yeah, from the reports we got from our monitors, they felt it was fairly well conducted.
Right.
But of course, you know, when you look at elections, you know, it's a process. It's not just election day. So, but of course, there were still problems with the pre-election processes leading to election day. But that is a different matter.
Right. So, what was it that, in your assessment, worked this time? Because, I mean, what was it that INEC, for instance, did right, or was it more than just INEC that seemed to work and make this?
I think they were prepared for it.
Right.
I think in the sense that they were able to train and retrain their ad hoc staff. They took care of the logistic problems, delivering materials, non-sensitive ones, 2 or 3 days before the elections. And on election day, they moved quickly ahead of the time. But where you have glitches regarding smart card readers, they were also prepared for that in the sense that they had from previous experience, they had replacement available and technicians who were able to fix the problems immediately. And I think that was what you see, they had learned from previous elections that these are glitches that could happen. And they were prepared to handle them immediately without causing undue delays to the
right. And people should know, obviously, that the CDD, as I said, in addition to being very well respected, is an independent organization. So it's not influenced either way by anybody. And did you get the sense that voters and the people of Edo State had faith in the integrity of the electoral process? I mean, we're doing a you talked about the pre-election environment. We're talking about the post-election environment. Was everyone, happy and perhaps pleasantly surprised that it turned out to be this way?
Well, at least the initial reaction is, of course, that people were jubilant, were happy. But, of course, losers would not be happy. So those who were seen were those who were happy about the outcome. It favored them. Those who are unhappy will raise questions.
They'll go and lick their wounds.
Yeah, so it's a pretty, conjectural at this point to see whether, the basis. Generally, people want to be seen with winners and not with losers.
Yeah, but I would have thought that part of your monitoring process is also, assessing the mood of the state. In other words, people having voted, you talk to the voters, sample of
That's the point I was making.
Right.
That, you saw people jubilating. Those who were interviewed said they were happy with it. Others were interviewed who were not happy with it. And you can see that it cuts across the party divide.
And we're going to take a break in a minute and would appreciate it if you stayed with us. But having closely monitored this Edo election, are you more confident that the next one in Ondo State in October will be well run, or are there factors that could come into play that may well undermine that ballot?
Well, that's a different question, because I can't see tomorrow from today. But I think that, there are problems, that I said, pre-election problems, that we need to attend to in the euphoria of the success of yesterday. And I think going ahead, I think it is important that we address those issues. Because definitely, as we said in our report this morning, there are still serious problems because the environment of politics is toxic in this country. Okay. And it is a serious environment, and we need to address urgently some of those problems so that we don't get carried away by the euphoria of
No, absolutely, you're right. Stay with us. We want to talk to you some more. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our post-election analysis of the just concluded governorship ballot in Nigeria's Edo State. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, inevitably and almost predictably, the results of the just concluded governorship election in Edo State, which conferred victory on the incumbent governor, Godwin Obaseki of the PDP, has been rejected by the local campaign team of the losing candidate from the rival APC party, Osagie Ize-Iyamu. So, for one side, the thrill of victory, and for the other, the agony of defeat. While supporters of Godwin Obaseki have been wildly jubilating, Osagie Ize-Iyamu's team allege foul play. Mr. Obaseki won 307,955 votes to beat his closest rival, Mr. Ize-Iyamu, who scored 223,619 votes. According to INEC, as well as a majority of those who observed the ballot, Mr. Obaseki met all the criteria needed for him to be returned as governor, but the state chapter of the rival APC has dismissed the victory, insisting that the poll was marked by falsification of the results, a claim that's been roundly rejected by the Electoral Commission and independent observers alike.
There's jubilation and celebration everywhere. You get, this is a rebirth of new democracy in Nigeria. You get, so, and I just want to tell everyone that don't give up. don't give up. No man is God, and no man can play God. You get, nobody can just come and apart from that, people are saying Edo is not Lagos. Edo, of course, Edo is not Lagos because we, the indigenes of Edo State, we are proud people. You get, we are not cowards. You cannot just come and tell us who to vote for. You cannot come and tell us someone that was a thief is now a saint, and someone that was a saint is not. You get, so I'm happy, and a big congratulations to Governor Obaseki.
We thank God for the peaceful election in Edo State. And I want other states to learn from this Edo State that they can do it, irrespective of the political forces that is around there. So we, the Edos here, we stand our ground from the beginning of the election to the end of the election. For God be the glory, the winner has been emerged, and it's God win, and God will always win.
I'm very, very happy because it's a humble Logomaki. You understand? We don't want good father. And I believe the people choose right, you understand? And I'm so very happy. Because of this election, I came personally to Edo State. You understand? So I'm very, very happy. I love that man called Obaseki, and he's a great leader. You understand? God bless Edo State. And Edo State will move forward from glory to glory.
The mood on the streets of Benin, the capital of Edo State there. And with me in the studio, the chairman of the Election Analysis Center for the CDD, the Center for Democracy and Development, Professor Adele Jinadu. And I'm also joined by Arise political editor, Sumner Shagari Sambo, who is in our other studio here in Abuja. And straight away to you, Sumner, good to see you. What's your assessment of how nail-biting this Edo election was? Because, I mean, there was considerable tension leading up to it and some apprehension when there appeared to be some delay in announcing the victory of Godwin Obaseki.
Well, thanks, Charles. Nigeria's election system is actually developing with what we've seen in the Edo election. But this is not to say that everything has become right by what we saw on Saturday. It actually means that sometimes when we think all hope is lost, we tend to get some wins here and there. The Electoral Commission has actually done very well, creditably in the sense that most of the challenges that they had were very minor, while the major issues that they had were actually in the areas of not paying their ad hoc staff very well. And some of those ad hoc staff that comprise NYC members had to even dump the result sheets and ballot papers on the way, refusing to conduct elections. And then we had the issues of card readers malfunctioning, but it wasn't substantial enough to actually derail the election. So from what we've seen here, yes, there's a pass mark for the electoral body, and a higher percentage of the pass mark actually goes to the security services that ensured that there was much security within not only the city center, but even in the hinterlands, because the fear was actually that the violence will not erupt in Benin, but in some of the local governments where we'll be having a huge chunk of the votes coming from. Look at a local government like Orion 1, where Pastor Isaiah Iyamo actually comes from, Oredo, local government where Obaseki actually comes from. And then you look at very large local governments like Ikpo Baoka, and then other ones, you see that definitely this is an improvement from the 2016 Edo State governorship polls. But what does this mean generally for the electorate and then even the political parties? Well, Charles, what this means is that if the electorate are able to synergize and see that the country is moving towards the era of electoral credibility, it will help to guarantee more free, fair, and credible polls in the future, in the sense that the forthcoming Ondo State governorship polls, which will be held on October 10, will this will set a template for voters in such areas that you don't need to be violent while expressing your vote. But some of the issues that are out from this election also calls for analysis. How do we explain a percentage of just like about 30%? We're talking about 500,000 votes out of about 2.2 million registered voters. Does it mean that we're allowing a state, a fragment of a state, to actually decide the future of the state? This is where the major challenge lies for Nigeria's electoral credibility in the future, because there seems to be a high level of voter apathy. From the presidential elections to this major election now, most Nigerians are not turning out. Why are they not turning out? Why is it that despite the peace on election day, we did not have a huge turnout? For the political parties, I mean, this is a serious learning curve for the ruling All Progressives Congress, considering that it has lost 9 states now from 2015. In the South-South, this is the 3rd state that it's losing. It first lost Rivers State, then it won Bayelsa and lost it, and it has lost Edo State now. If you go to the Northwest, you see that it lost Zamfara, it lost Sokoto. If you come to the North Central, you see that it lost Benue. And if you go to the Northeast, you see that it lost Bauchi, it lost Adamawa. And then if you go to the Southwest, it lost Oyo State. This really calls for a lot of rethinking on the part of the leadership of the APC on the future of the party. As for the opposition People's Democratic Party, this also means that they are rising. But does this rise actually mean that Nigerians really want the PDP? It may not necessarily be so, but it's just because we do not have what analysts will call a 3rd force. And so Nigerians are resorting back to the party that they may have in the past rejected. So in all of this, it calls for political reawakening among the political elites. And then, of course, it actually tells the political elites that the voters are becoming sophisticated.
That's a very good point, Sumner. And just very briefly, because we've got less than 3 minutes left, and I want to get a final word from the professor here. We were talking earlier about how almost inherently contentious Nigerian elections are, where the person who is defeated rarely ever concedes in good faith. I mean, you know, we're seeing the APC, the local branch of the APC in Edo State, arguing that the elections were fabricated. I mean, the results. Is that a tactic aimed at achieving some sort of political objective? Obviously, we don't know the basis of their contention yet.
Well, like you said, John Mayaki, who is the spokesman of the local APC in Edo State, actually said that the local wing of the APC, they were rejecting the votes because it was manipulated, there was rigging here and there. But in all sense, Charles, this is what usually happens with Nigeria's election. Now, we have thought that there was an upward trajectory in terms of accepting defeat whenever the results of an election becomes clean and clear, like we've had here, especially when former President Goodluck Jonathan placed that call to incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari. But we are saying that the APC doesn't seem to be taking it from that angle. We had thought that they would have learned from that victory congratulatory speech by former President Goodluck Jonathan. And as a result of that, when elections become free, fair, and credible, they will actually toe that path. But with what we've seen, we do not know the facts, in quotes, that the APC may have. Okay. But this may actually affect the credibility of future polls if we do not accept results. Okay,
Sumner, thank you ever so much. And just before you go, Professor, just a final word from you. Is there any international best practice or Nigerian best practice from your experience of this ballot that could be implemented in future elections? We've got about 20 seconds.
I think in the African context, definitely the improvement that INEC has brought about in terms of the outputting of the results and making access to it easy. You know, and it is remarkable in this respect that by 12 midnight on Sunday morning, there was already projection. Okay,
I'm really going to, sorry, I apologize, Professor, but thank you very much indeed. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead. Stay with us.